First off, just a little warm up here. So if you have x being divided by 2, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 2 so that I end up with x equals 3/4 times 2 over 1, which is just going to end up being x equals 3/2. Just solved equations like that before. So today you're going to have some with variables in the denominator. One thing you do have to do is check for extraneous solution, because it's possible that you might get a value for your variable where if you plug it back in, it makes you divide by 0, and I'll have to exclude those and throw them out. So check at the end. So if I'm looking at this, I want to get my variable out of the denominator because I'm trying to solve for it. So I'm just going to start by, on the left-hand side, so I'm dividing by x minus 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by x minus 2. When you do that, your x minus 2's on the left will divide out to 1. And on the right, I'll actually just multiply that together and end up with 11x minus 22 over 2x minus 10. I still have my variable in the denominator on the right, so now I'm going to multiply. Since I've divided by 2x minus 10, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2x minus 10. On the right, those will divide out to 1. On the left, I'll actually have to multiply my 2x minus 10 times 7. So I'm going to end up with 14x minus 70 equals my 11x minus 22. And then there's no more variables and any denominators. It's just all whole numbers, and you can rearrange it. So I'm going to subtract 11x from both sides. And then I'll add 70, which will get me 3x equals 48. If you divide both sides by 3, you'll have x equals 16. I do need to check and make sure that 16 isn't an extraneous solution, so let's plug it back into my original equation and make sure that it doesn't make me divide by 0. So if I do it on the left, I'll have 16 minus 2 is 14, not making me divide by 0. On the right, that'll give you 32 minus 10 is 22, still not 0. I could go all the way and make sure that those two sides are actually equal. 7 over 14 does equal 11 over 22, but usually I just make sure my denominator is not equal to 0. So here I've got a couple options. I could work on the left-hand side, get a common denominator by multiplying my second fraction by 2 over 2, and then subtract and combine on the left. But actually, I think it's easier just to add 4 over x squared to both sides, because then I'll have terms that already have a common denominator, and I won't have to work to get one, because on the right, that'll give me 1 over x squared plus 4 over x squared, which you can just go ahead and add together and make 5 over x squared. So up to you. Now again, I have division by my variable, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by, in this case, I picked a start on the left and multiplied both sides by 2x squared over 1. So those will divide out to 1 on the left, and you'll just have x minus 4. On the right, I have 10x squared over x squared. Now here, I really don't want to multiply both sides by x squared, because that'd give me like x cubed in an equation that's going to be hard to solve. If you see a common factor like those x squareds, go ahead and divide it out right now. Makes your life so much easier. So go ahead and do that, and then you can just add 4 to both sides and end up with x equals 14. Go ahead and make sure that that works in your original, that it doesn't make you divide by 0. So if you look at your denominators, if you plug 14 into any of those 3 denominators, you will not get 0, so 14 should be fine. If you think you've kind of got the hang of it, this might be a good one to pause and try it. You're going to have to do a little bit of factoring, but it's still the same idea. So if you're working on it, I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2x plus 5 over 1. I could start with 11x plus 8, but I'm just starting on the left. That will give me just 1 equals x times 2x plus 5 over 11x plus 8. If I multiply that x in, I have 2x squared plus 5x over 11x plus 8. Now, since I'm dividing by 11x plus 8, let's undo that by multiplying by it. You'll have 11x plus 8 equals your 2x squared plus 5x. Now this one's a quadratic. I have x squared and x, so I want to get 0 on one side. So if I go ahead and subtract my 11x and my 8, then I can factor out a common factor of 2 from everything. Rewriting it, I can find two numbers that multiply to -4 and add up to -3. I use -4 and +1, and then I can make a couple groups, factor out a common factor of x from my first two, and that'll leave me with x minus 4. I just want to leave my second group the same, so factor out a 1. So it factors into 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 4. So if you set those equal to 0, you get x equals -1 and x equals +4. Double check to make sure that they don't make your denominators equal to 0. So if you plug back in either one of those, you will not get 0. All right, we've got one where we're going to have to write our own equation. So you've got this mixture in your car radiator that is some antifreeze and water. I had to refill mine the other day. You have a mixture of 7 liters that is currently 40% antifreeze, so it's not the right proportion. We need to know how much antifreeze we need to add to bring it up to the recommended level. So what we're looking to get is the amount of antifreeze over the amount of total liquid is supposed to turn out to be a ratio of 50%. So if you think about right now, we have 7 liters of coolant that's 40% antifreeze. So if I multiply 7 times my 40%, there are 2.8 liters of antifreeze right now over my total amount of liquid that's in there is 7 liters. So I need to know how much additional antifreeze I need to add to end up with 50%, because 2.8 over 7 is not 50% right now. This mystery amount of antifreeze that I add is going to increase my total amount of antifreeze and add to my total amount of liquid. So I should set my equation up like that, and then we're just going to do what we've been doing the whole lesson and solve. So multiply to get 7 plus x out of my denominator. Sorry if that looks like a decimal, it's supposed to be a multiplication. That'll give you 2.8 plus x equals, if you actually multiply, you'll get 3.5 plus 1/2 x. And then you can just work on, I would subtract 1/2 x from both sides, which will just give me 1/2 x. And subtract 2.8, you'll end up with just 0.7. I would rather have these as fractions because I don't like decimals, so I'm going to make this 1/2 x equals 7/10. And then I'll multiply both sides by 2. So I'll have 14 over 10, which, since we're dealing with liters, I'm just going to make into 1.4 liters.